Hey, you ain't going to want to miss this one because I believe we finally cracked the code of what it is to hear from God, how you get there, the steps you got to take to get there. I think we figured it out.
This will be the best yet.
Welcome to the Called to Love podcast, a show dedicated to exploring how human relationships and intimacy with God are connected. Join us as we discuss hard-hitting topics that inspire and motivate you to go deeper into the intricacies of building meaningful relationships. Here now are your hosts, James Levisee and Brian Knoedl.
Well, Bubba, I think I've cracked the code. I think I figured something out.
Tell me about it.
Well, we've been doing these talks for quite some time, and we're always driving home this idea that you can have a personal, intimate relationship with God, that you can learn to walk with Him, that you can learn to hear from Him. And quite honestly, we get a lot of people that say things to us like, I just want to be able to hear from God. I just don't hear from God. And they say that frequently. We hear it all the time.
Sure.
It's the number one answer on the board when you start talking about, hey, tell me about your walk with God. Well, I just want to get better at hearing from Him. Okay, well, that's great. So recently I was with a couple of guys who I love dearly, and both of them are incredible, very into following the Lord. They really think about the way they are operating and is it pleasing to the Lord, and they want to be an example to people. They really focus on that. And one of them was reading the Bible this week. He was sharing about he was just captivated by the relationship David had. He was reading the book of Psalms. And he said, man, I just want to be there where that level of relationship, I want to get that. It just blows my mind, the way they talk to each other. And that right there is what we've been talking about.
Yes.
But we're just failing a little bit every time of just missing the mark of saying this is what we're talking about. So I learn every time, oh, that's what we're missing. We're not talking about that, even though we try so hard to communicate it. So I wanted to just kind of spend some time talking about that because here's what I believe, based on experience and information given to me by other people, not paid actors or anybody else, not surveys, just walking with real people. They have skipped the going into a quiet solitude place and isolating themselves from the world to be alone with God. And in that time, listening and wanting and desiring to learn from God to a place to where they could actually know His ways.
Right.
All right?
Okay.
And when you do that, you not only learn to hear His character, the characteristics of things He does, the way in which He does things, the suggestive nature, the telling you things, the teaching you things, and He's always showing up if you ask Him. And if you're really wanting to find something, He'll wait. And sometimes people get impatient with that, to see if you really want to pursue it. And so there's this conversation that I noticed because I started journaling, and I can look at my current and past journals, and they look and read like Psalms. Sometimes I was really happy, really, just out of my mind joyful, and me and God were just frolicking through the grass, and we were just in good. And then I would have these hardship times, and I felt like everything was caving in around me, and God would listen to me, And then he would tell me that he's going to be a strong contender for me, that he loves me and he loves spending time with me. And then he would start encouraging me about how he loves, that he prepares, that he told me one time, he said, I can't wait to spend time with you. Don't be late. And then I hear comments in our videos where people say, I can't imagine God being any other way except wanting to send me straight to hell for making mistakes. And that's clearly not someone that's spending time with him like I'm talking about. So all I'm saying, and I'm going to let you have it, is that you can get into this relationship like David had with God in the Psalms, to where you're going back and forth with ideas and God's telling you things and teaching you things and you're listening to things and you're being encouraged when you're discouraged.
When you look at the book of Psalms, it's got the most chapters of any book in the Bible. And they go through different topics, different settings, different situations. I love Psalm 139. You know, I talk about it a lot because David has a grasp on how wonderful, how powerful the Lord is. I mean, he's got a revelation of that. Now, that didn't stop him from making poor choices. You know, there is a production in Missouri. They do characters in the Bible every year, and I remember them just doing David, and they did a really good job. They placed extreme focus on his walk and relationship with the Lord. And they ended the entire production, him singing to the Lord. But in between, they really showed how he began to fall away because his gifts, calling, talents, and abilities were paving ways his character ultimately could not keep him. And the one thing they kept emphasizing and highlighting was showing how the first thing that began to go is his time he made with the Lord. It was just incredible.
Yeah.
Whoever wrote that script really did a great job highlighting, because you can't do in a couple hours everything about David. So what David modeled what it looked like to make time for the Lord. Now, his occupation, tending the sheep, allowed him to have a lot of one-on-one. But it was a prepping time that prepared him for what God had planned for him.
Yeah.
So what we see often, and like you said, we are getting some feedback, and it's interesting to hear people's perspective because they can't wrap their mind around the idea that God is crazy about them, that he wants, if I die, he died for us so that he could be in relationship with us, and we act like, that it's because we don't believe what his word says. We don't either know what his word says about us, or we don't believe it.
Well, it's unbelievable.
It's unimaginable is what it is, but you have to. And the only way you're truly going to get it is you can't learn it. You have to encounter his love, his presence. That is the biggest thing. You can argue doctrine, you can argue religion, you can argue all the different principles or elements or whatever that makes up Christianity, but at the end of the day, he wants you to know him.
Yeah.
And the whole purpose of Holy Spirit is to live in us, to reveal him to us, us to him, and to know his heart for us. And so disciplines alone, scheduling, church attendance, all of those things can have a place, but if they're not fueled by a personal relationship, everything else becomes an idol, or you become codependent.
Yeah.
And so that's our heart. It's just really, one day a guy asked me, he says, "What, in a nutshell, what would you say you do?" I said, "We reintroduce people to Jesus, show them what the Word says about them and His desire to be in relationship with them." And it's just perspective, and religious perspectives say you'll never get to know Him. We will tell you how to get closer to the Lord. And it can become religious duty in nature, and that's not what we're wanting to see people, because a lot of people are falling away. And our heart is to make sure that the sphere of influence that we have and the people that we meet and what these podcasts are about is to keep revealing the heart of the Father to people.
Well, people say, I'm not very religious, or, people will say that before they say, I'm a Christ follower, a lot of times. And I always say, and especially if they know how passionate I am about the Lord, I'll say, I'm not religious either. I can't stand religion, because my definition of religion is God without relationship.
That's exactly right.
If you have a parent and no relationship, they're just a master. Or something, or maybe they don't have anything to do with you, but it's not going to be good. But when you have God with the relationship, you have this intimate, passionate, relationship that you want to follow. Will you make mistakes? Exactly. That's what you just got through saying about David. But look what happened to David. If you're unfamiliar with the story, you can go catch up on it. But he goes and gets with this woman, Bathsheba, because he saw her, quite frankly, taking a bath on top of a house, or however it was. And he just started imagining, man, I really could have that. I'm king. I could have anything I want. I think I want that. Never mind she's married. So he gets with her, right? They start an intimate relationship, puts her husband on the front lines to be murdered at a war. Well, he's technically not murdered, but good chance of getting killed. Now we're going to get that out of the way. So he did. He got killed. They have a son. And his relationship with God at the time, he was probably not thinking straight, for one. But when he has this child, he loses the child, and he knows that there's consequences to what he did. He didn't get upset and stop his relationship with God. He accepted the consequences of things. This may sound very hard to understand by people, but he knew God so well, he didn't let anything come between him and that relationship. He looked at this as like, God, you're God. I'm your faithful servant. I am here for you. And God just never condemned him or anything. Blessed him with a son that was the wisest man to this day known to anybody, Solomon. From that sinful relationship, God found a way to work this out for the good. But David, what fascinates me about David is he knew God was right. He knew he himself, David, was wrong, but he didn't let that bother him. You ever notice, like, I've heard country songs like this. I just want to be her lips when you kiss her. I've heard these songs like that. It's like this woman wants to be everything this other woman is.
Sure.
So she could feel the passion that you have for her because you've never quite gotten that.
Yeah.
And to me, we ought to be reading the Bible, looking at David's relationship with God like that, instead of it just be a disciplinary thing that we do. Like, well, I got to read my book today. Today we're in Psalms, and we're getting through the books and everything, and it's endless, and people do that for their whole life and never realize, completely missing the point that, hey, I'm showing y'all here multiple ways you can have a relationship with me, and this one right here is a good one, and this is where we interact the most. So I asked God, I said, how do we how do we get people, how do I communicate to get people in relationship with others? And how is it that I can walk in the goodness and these things, these gifts that you give out? And he tells me in this quiet time, he says, it's the measure in which you give to others. It's the measure of love that you give to others that'll be measured back to you. If you're not carrying the love for others, and you're not carrying a responsibility to carry out the goodness of God to other people, how much is he going to measure back to you?
That's true.
Why would I? I'm not going to give you a knife to go stab all my children. But if you want to walk around with a love stick and show people how I truly am in character, man, I'm going to measure it back to you. I'm going to show myself through you. And we all have access to that kind of relationship.
I think it's gotten to a place for most church folks, those that attend church regularly. Most of them don't feel qualified or don't feel like they are in a position to really be a light to others, because they're still struggling with issues within. They're still dealing with hurts. They're still dealing with past wounds, church hurt, family dysfunction or disconnect. And so the enemy knows this. So what does the enemy say? Don't you dare try to reach out to someone. Don't dare try to love someone. You'll be a hypocrite. Your world's screwed up. You got issues. You got problems. God can't use you right now. So what happens is they feel condemned. They don't even feel convicted. They just feel condemned because they know there's things they got to make right. There's things that they've got to take before the Lord, and they're not going and creating space for him to speak to them. He knows it's on their heart and their mind, but he knows they're not ready to surrender it. He's wanting them to just come in and feel love, make a moment, make time for us, and watch me move. Holy Spirit will absolutely walk you through this and bring things up, each thing that is standing, and you will find a more closer, intimate connection with the Lord.
Yeah.
What happens when spouses have problems and they reconcile? There's a tremendous amount of love that rushes in. Yeah. It gives such a refreshing and a renewing, and it moves you towards intimacy to start all over again. Doing that with the Father is no different. Yeah. And that's where you're able to really begin to walk out, being a light and being an example. But we're trying to get people to say, spend some time with the Lord, create space, and talk to him. Don't worry about what it looks like. He's not looking for you to be a professional speaker to him. He just wants you to be present and available. That's all he wants you to do. And from there, he will guide you. Holy Spirit will walk you through whatever it is that you need to deal with. So that is what we have for this evening. I thank you so much, James.
Yeah.
Until next time.
We hope this episode of the Called to Love podcast has enriched your life and offered valuable principles to apply on your personal journey. Please explore our website at www.calledto.love for more information and to share your feedback with us. Until our next episode, may you find peace and love. And always remember, you are called to love.